My sister used my credit card to buy her daughter a $4 prom dress. When I asked her to pay me back, she said, "You don't have kids, you don't need the money." Mom added, "Stop being selfish." I said, "You're right," and hung up. That evening, I canceled the card, which was connected to their house's electricity bill, water, and internet. At 11 p.m., everything went dark. My sister handed out the lanyards like party favors, and my daughter stood there holding her towel and her breath. It was the 4th of July at my mom's house in Grove City. Charcoal smoke, paper plates, bending under potato salad kids running through sprinklers. Brittany clinked a spoon against a mason jar and said, "Okay, cousins, line up." She pulled 7 plastic sleeves with the county water park passes inside. Pink bands for the girls, blue for the boys. Paige got hers first with a big #1 sticker like a game show prize. The other cousins giggled and compared the little cartoony dolphins on the cards. Nora squeezed my hand. She was in her Red Star swimsuit with a cotton dress over it and the little hat she refuses to take off. She's 9. She's quiet. She had brought her goggles in a Ziploc bag because she is a planner like me. When the line was done, there was no lanyard left, just a crumpled receipt at the bottom of the Target bag. Nora kept her polite voice. "Where's mine?" Brittany didn't even look up. "These are for the grandkids," she said, like it explained the weather. Mom bought a family pack. It's already tight. My mom was slicing watermelon. She didn't turn around. "We thought you two were busy," she said over her shoulder. "It's the cousins thing." Nora's fingers went cold around mine. "I'm a cousin," she whispered. It was so soft I almost pretended I didn't hear it. I swallowed. My throat felt like I'd swallowed a handful of pins. I looked at the lanyards bright against damp t-shirts. I looked at the way Paige's sticker peeled up at one corner, the edge collecting dust. I could have said a lot of things. I could have dragged up the receipts and the history and the thousands of little cuts. Instead, I smiled at Nora and said, "We'll do something fun, just us." She nodded too hard like a bobblehead. I took her to the swing set by the maple tree and pushed her slow. My hands shook on the chains. Brittany's acrylic nails clicked against her phone when she lifted it to get a grandkids group photo. She angled it so Nora and I weren't in frame. It was nothing. It was everything. I knew right then something had shifted. I just didn't know the exact time the lights would go out. I'm Taylor. I'm 36. I live in Columbus, Ohio, above my little jewelry studio on Parsons. My life is full of silver dust polishing cloths and little velvet boxes. I'm a single mom. I adopted my daughter Nora when she was 3. She came to me with a folder of papers and a stuffed rabbit missing one ear. We made our own family out of 2 bowls, a second-hand couch, and a calendar with more sticky notes than days. My mom, Carol, lives in the house I grew up in. When my dad died 5 years ago, she panicked at every bill. She didn't know how to log into anything. Her credit cards were maxed minimums she couldn't meet. I sat at her kitchen table, opened my laptop, and put her electric, water, and internet on my credit card. I set up autopay with my card and a little spreadsheet to track it. The numbers were manageable. $183 for electric, $79 for water, $69 for Spectrum, give or take. I told myself I would use my points for Christmas. It didn't stop there. There were, "Can you spot me 50 until Friday" texts that turned into weekly $150 transfers just until the settlement comes through, just until me paying Brittany's car insurance for 6 months because she literally could not drive to work otherwise. Work was sporadic. Jobs came and went. Paige always had the crispest white sneakers and the newest iPhone, though. I bought big things, too. The year after Dad died, I rented a beach house for all of us in Hilton Head. I put down $1,800 for the deposit and $2,300 the month after. I bought groceries. I booked the van. Mom cried on the balcony and told me I was saving the family. That line stuck to me like a sticker you can't scrape off. I paid for little things, too. Birthday cakes when the order got messed up. Cleats for my nephew. A gas card slipped into Mom's purse with a smile. It felt good to solve things. It felt easier than saying no. Nora watched all of this. She knows numbers. She knows when I open my budgeting app after she's asleep and stare at categories like they might budge if I will them to. She never asks for big things. She draws me pictures and leaves them on my workbench. Little notes that say, "You are my sparkle," with stick figure versions of us holding hands in a frame. The slights toward her were a second column in the spreadsheet in my head. They were the tiny things I let slide because the big things felt more urgent. There was the Christmas Mom gave each grandchild a red envelope of $50 cash and an ornament with their name. Nora's ornament was Mandy's girl, and there was no envelope. "She's not old enough for cash," Mom said. Nora sat in my lap and watched the others count. "It's fine," I told Nora. And we made cocoa at home and counted marshmallows instead. There was the Mother's Day, where Mom gave all the moms a birthstone bracelet. She held mine over the table and said, "I didn't know what stone to get for you since," and waved her hand at the air like adoption was fog. Her bracelet had 3 stones for Brittany's kids and 1 for my brothers. Mine had a dangling charm of a heart empty. I went to my studio that night and soldered a tiny peridot charm for Nora's August birthday. I added it quietly. Mom never noticed. There were the photos with grandkids in vinyl letters across the bottom of the frame set on the mantel for every visitor to see. Nora never made the cut. There was Thanksgiving when seating was families at the big table extras at the card table. Nora squeezed into a squeaky folding chair by the pantry door, wore knees touching the metal. I told myself they'd come around. I told myself blood didn't matter, that time would make them softer. I told myself it was generational. The money made me the good one. The money kept me in the family group chat. It bought me a seat where my daughter didn't get one. 3 months before the 4th, Brittany asked if she could put a seamstress deposit on my card. She said she'd left her wallet. She said it was a time thing. I was soldering bezels and thinking about ring sizes. I said, "Fine, but call me so I can approve it." She didn't call. A few days later, I saw $4.200 at Bella Moore Bridal. The description said custom prom. Paige's prom was next week. I stared at the app while my Tumblr hummed in the background. I texted Brittany, "Hey, is this your charge?" She wrote back a heart and "Yes, Paige's dream. I'll pay you when my taxes hit." I pressed my tongue to my molars until my jaw ached. I did not push. A month after that, I finally said no to something bigger. Brittany wanted me to co-sign on a new SUV. I said I couldn't. I wasn't willing. She called me selfish. Mom said I was letting family down. The next week there was a cousin's sleepover. Nora wasn't invited because they're doing bloodline bracelets and it would be confusing. I almost threw my phone in the sink. So when Brittany held up 7 lanyards on the 4th of July and there wasn't one for my daughter, it wasn't about a plastic card. It was a ledger bleeding red. It was a pattern I'd been balancing until my hands shook. We left before the fireworks. I told Nora we'd watch them from our porch, where the mosquitoes are less rude. She didn't argue. She never makes a scene. She fell asleep with sunscreen marks still on her cheeks and a bookmark in her newest dog-eared library book. I went into the studio because soldering calms me. The bench light made a little circle of gold on the wood. I could smell the flux. My phone was face down. When I finally looked at it, there was a notification from my credit card app. Reminder, upcoming scheduled payment for AEP Ohio. $183 due 11 p.m. They had been on a final notice. I had gotten the email that morning, same as always. Disconnect scheduled if payment not received by 11 p.m. It was a new system after they installed smart meters. I had been on top of it for months. That was the deal. They couldn't afford to go out again. Not with Mom's health and the fridge full of things. I scrolled. The $4.200 bridal charge sat there like a slap. It was due next cycle. I would cover it and carry a balance. I could see it playing out. The dress I didn't touch, the passes I didn't get, the things that were always for family when my kid was suddenly invisible. My fingers shook as I hit call. Brittany picked up on the 3rd ring. "Hey, you see Paige's video? 3000 views." I saw the charge for $4 200 inches, I said. I kept my voice level. "You told me a deposit. You used my card for the whole dress." Silence then, that laugh she does when she's about to spin. "You know I'm good for it. Taxes are coming mid-July and you don't have kids. You don't need the money." Something in me went very, very quiet. "I have a child," I said. I heard my own voice like it was down a hallway. She scoffed. "You know what I mean. Like college daycare, real kid expenses. Paige has prom and then senior pics and then..." Mom's voice in the background. "What is it? Is she being dramatic again?" Brittany put me on speaker. Mom said, "You're being dramatic." Mom's voice got closer. "Taylor, stop being selfish. This is your niece. Family. You're always the steady one. Don't make this ugly." I looked at the time. 10:21 p.m. I could hear fireworks starting in the distance. Low booms rolling over the buildings. "You're right," I said. I didn't add anything else. I didn't ask for explanations that never came. I hung up. I opened my banking app. My thumb hovered over the little red freeze card slider. Then I thought about the utilities. I thought about Nora on that swing set while a group photo was taken 5 feet away like she was air. I slid it. Card locked. I tapped through to replace card. I checked the box for compromised, unauthorized user. I hit submit. A new number would be overnighted to my shop. I did one more thing in the same breath because it was all the same move. I opened the AEP Ohio app, then the Water app, then Spectrum, and I removed my card from autopay. There's usually a lag, but the electric one had that red banner, scheduled disconnect at 11 p.m. if payment not received. They counted autopay as payment on receipt. No card, no receipt. At 11:07 p.m., my phone lit up. Mom calling. Then Brittany. Then home. A text came through from Mom. Power's out. Did your card change? Another. Taylor, this isn't funny. My hands weren't shaking anymore. I put my phone face down again. I picked up my file and smoothed the bezel. I breathed in slow. I didn't feel triumph. I felt a clean cut across a gnarl that had been choking us. Down the street, someone whooped at a burst of fireworks. In my phone log, the missed calls stacked like Jenga blocks. At 11:23 p.m., a final text from Brittany. Paige is freaking out. Her hair needs to be washed. You're sick. I shut off the bench light. The room went from bright to quiet dim. In the dark, the tumbler hummed like a heart. By morning, my voicemail was full. Mom cried in one, sniffing and saying, I just didn't know. In another, Brittany's voice was hard. You ruined a holiday to prove a stupid point. That's child abuse, Taylor. Paige left one sobbing and calling me names she learned in hallways. I didn't save that. I walked Nora to the farmer's market and bought peaches. When my phone buzzed in my pocket, I let it buzz. Nora picked the most bruised ones because she said they were sweeter. I bought her a sun hat with little lemons on it, and she did a shy spin in the mirror of a stall. At noon, there was a knock. My Aunt Denise stood on my stoop with a brown bag and a look. She's my mom's sister, the only one who tells me the truth without a barbed hook in it. They sent me, she said. They're embarrassed to come here. I let her in. Nora went to her room and closed the door quiet like a cat. Aunt Denise set her bag on the counter. They had it cut off because it was on a disconnect anyway. They were counting on your card. They had a warning. They didn't tell you because they knew you'd fix it. I nodded. I saw the banner. They want you to switch it back on. They said it's just until the end of the month and then Brittany's taxes. Brittany's taxes are like the second coming, I said. She almost smiled. Then she got serious. They said some ugly things about Nora last night, Mandy. I'm not repeating them. I told them I wouldn't come over unless they shut up. My chest went tight. Okay. Aunt Denise looked at me like she was measuring a ring. You've been keeping everyone afloat on a raft with your name on it. You've got a kid sitting on that raft with you who doesn't fit in their little picture. You get to pick where you spend. I canceled the card. I'm not reinstating it. She nodded. I figured. I brought you lasagna. By 5, Mom and Brittany showed up anyway. They didn't knock hard. They stood on the landing, wilted from the heat, hair up, eyes puffy. Nora stayed in her room. I let them into the hall, but not past the second step. It's a split level. You can see my living room from the landing. There's a big plant that hides my mess. Mom started soft. Taylor, baby, we had food in the fridge. You had warning, I said. They put the tag on your door. We're your family, Mom said. You don't do this to family. Brittany crossed her arms. You're really going to punish all of us because you're mad about a plastic pass. Grow up. I felt the old urge to explain, to pull out spreadsheets to remind them of every number I had covered like a blanket over a shivering dog. I didn't. I kept my voice even. I won't fund a family my kid isn't part of. I canceled the card. I'm not reinstating it. Brittany rolled her eyes. This is about your weird adoption thing. You always have to make it about you. It's about my child, I said. If you think she's optional, then so is my money. Mom's mouth pinched. You're cruel. I'm tired. I'm done. They threw out the usual lines. Tax return? I owe you. Wait until the 1st. I don't have a ride to the payment center. Everyone is watching us. How could you do this on a holiday? I kept repeating the same sentence until it felt like a brand on my own skin. You're off my card. They left angry. 20 minutes later, my cousin Lena texted me. Saw the group chat. That was brutal. Want to come over Sunday? My boys want to show Nora the treehouse. I said yes so fast my thumb stumbled. The practical fallout was boring and loud. Mom had to go down to the electric company with her social security card and set up service. Brittany sold a designer bag for cheap on Facebook Marketplace to get the water on. Spectrum charged a reconnection fee that made Brittany call me from a borrowed phone to scream. I didn't answer. Paige wore the prom dress. It was covered in beads that looked sharp if you hugged her. Aunt Denise sent me a picture of Paige posing in front of a car. Her hair looked fine. The caption under that photo on Brittany's Facebook was, "We did it, baby." I noticed the Love My Village comment and kept scrolling. Nora overheard enough to understand. On Monday, she slid a drawing under my studio door. 2 stick figures, a big plant, a little bench with a lamp. Us. Above our heads, she had written in block letters, "Not optional." We built our own Cousin's Day in my backyard the next weekend. Not out of spite, out of air. Lena brought her boys. Aunt Denise came with potato salad that could feed a town. My neighbor's kids added noise and skinned knees. I strung up the thrifted pennant flags I used for Nora's birthdays. The grill sputtered. The table was a patchwork of dollar store plates and a tablecloth with lemons that matched Nora's hat. I hung 3 cheap lanyards on hooks by the back door. One said Taylor. One said Nora. The third was blank. When Nora asked about it, I said, "For someone kind." She nodded like she understood it and took a marker to draw a small lemon on the plastic. There were 2 empty chairs under the maple tree. I didn't put them there on purpose. I just couldn't fill the space. I stared at them for a minute, then went to flip the burgers. Lena pulled me aside while the kids fought over the sprinkler. She asked about the passes, she said. I told her, "We'll get her one for next year. My treat." I swallowed and blinked too fast. After everyone left, I went down to the studio. The light felt different, like I had moved a heavy thing off it. I pulled out the bracelet Mom gave me with the empty heart charm. I took my little jar of peridot stones and set one in the heart. I soldered it shut. I didn't plan to give it back to her. I set it on a hook above my bench next to Nora's drawings. At night, Nora and I sat on the porch and watched the neighbors' fireworks fizzle. She leaned her head on my shoulder. "Do we have to go back there?" she asked. "Not unless you want to," I said. She thought about it. "I like it here." Me too. A few days later, there was an envelope in my mailbox with no return address. Inside was a check from Brittany for $200 and a Post-it note that said, "More when we can." I deposited it. It didn't scratch the address. It didn't scratch the years. It wasn't about that anymore. Mom texted me 2 weeks after. "Dinner Sunday, just you." I read it twice. I typed, "Nora and I are a package." Then I put my phone down. The next day she sent, "Okay, both of you. I'll make spaghetti." Progress is not a parade. It's a tight, awkward step on a shaky stair. We went. Mom set 2 plates. She didn't have a magic apology. She didn't put a lanyard around Nora's neck or hand her an envelope. She did ask Nora about her book. She listened. When we left, she hugged me and didn't say anything about money. I took that for what it was. I'm not the wallet anymore. I'm a mother first. The utilities are on in my house, and I can see where every dollar goes. The card in my wallet has a new number. The hooks by the door hold 2 lanyards and a blank. Sometimes in the studio, when the tumbler hums and the street is quiet, I touch the little peridot in that heart charm. It's not revenge. It's a reminder. My kid is not optional. The lights went out once.